Radio Spätkauf. Berlin News in English.
It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October, 2025. This is Radio Spätkauf, this time not in front of a live audience. I am Daniel Stern.
And I'm Izzy Choksey. And today we are joined by very great friends of the pod, Konrad Werner from Megan's Megacan.
Hello.
So are you happy to be here?
Yeah.
He's in his own living room. That's such a weird thing to say to him.
I'm very I'm almost starstruck to be here, with you. Normally it's just me and Megan drinking. And now there's like all these people here.
Yeah.
I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, and you didn't. Should I have bought mega cans?
Oh yeah, normally Megan brings them. Yeah,
I realize that that's her job.
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm the Megan now.
You're in her seat.
Yeah. Oh, this is her seat.
Yeah.
This is a powerful position. Is this where in the room she sits too?
Yeah, exactly.
Just
like
for
that.
Listeners, like right now, first of all, if you haven't seen Ben's living room, you should see his film. We're all gonna die. I thought I'd been here before because it's in the film. But Megan's chair sort of like faces the room but like blocks the exit, as though she were to sit down and be like, "We're doing a podcast and you can't go anywhere until I finish my drinks." Yeah,
that is like pretty much the vibe.
And there are piles of books.
Whoa. They're on shelves. Let me just be clear. This is not like...
And piles on tables.
The look here is orderly in general and not of like a...
No, I'm impressed by all the books and the beautiful pictures.
What percentage have you read?
35.
So today, coming up on today's show, we cover the local Brandenburg elections, where the AfD did not do outstandingly well. And Konrad Werner talks to us about the German political landscape and the policies of doom that are creeping in.
Can't wait.
Okay, so just to start us off, we're going to do the short news section. Berlin is set to become significantly greener over the next 15 years, with a plan to plant hundreds of thousands of new trees across the city. This ambitious initiative stems, see what I did there, from the draft law jointly developed by the CDU and the SPD coalition parties in collaboration with a citizens' initiative, the BaumEntscheid. The proposal, which closely mirrors the initiative's original concept, is scheduled for final approval in a special session of the House of Representatives on November 3rd. The tree law aims to enhance Berlin's livability and resilience against climate change, heat and drought. Co-initiator Heinrich Strozenreuter, I swear all the names on this podcast are so difficult to pronounce, hailed the agreement as a major victory for civic engagement. The programme is estimated to cost around €3 billion over 15 years, with potential funding from federal special funds.
That's a lot of green.
A scientific advisory board known as the Control Council will oversee a report on the law's implementation.
Nettelbeckplatz in Berlin-Mitte has officially been named Martha-Ndumbe-Platz, honouring a victim of Nazi persecution. The new name was unveiled during a public ceremony following a months-long selection process that saw over 500 suggestions submitted by residents. A local commission chose 3 finalists, and in January, the district council voted to name the square after Martha-Ndumbe, a Berlin-born woman of Cameroonian and German descent who was deported to Ravensbrück concentration camp in 1944 and died there in early 1945. The renaming replaces Joachim Nettelbeck, a former slave ship officer and colonial advocate whose legacy no longer aligns with Berlin's values. The change aims to commemorate victims of racist violence and bring greater visibility to marginalized histories.
Mm-hmm. So, for the first time, Berlin's Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg district has managed to fine a landlord for charging exploitative rent, 190% above the legal limit set by the local rental index, or the Mietspiegel, which applies in areas with particularly strained housing markets. So according to the public broadcaster RBB, the landlord initially appealed the fine, but withdrew the challenge just one day before the scheduled hearing on October 9th. The tenant now has the opportunity to sue for a refund of 22,264 Right, 22,264 euros and 8 cents. Jesus Christ, I'm going to say it again. 22,264 euros and 8 cents in overpaid rent. That is a staggering amount of money.
Yeah.
So,
amazing.
Yeah. How do you get those processes started? Is this all Conny.de, or do you do it through your Mietverein? Like, how do you get those processes started? Because it sounds like this is...
I don't know. I always see adverts on YouTube for how to reduce my rent.
I met a woman
don't know
last
how they
night
do
who
it.
said that hers was 12,000. She was owed 12,000 euros in like 4 years of over rent,
Wow.
which is just insane. Yeah.
I make all the people who move into my building go through the process of filing their rents, as illegally high. Every single one of them is illegally high, and every single one of them gets a reduction. And every time someone moves in, I go and say, "Look, I'm going to save you some money. You don't have to do anything for me," and they don't.
Oh, right.
But we fight against collectively against our enemy, the
Property
perfectly nice
owner.
people who are trying to make money off of us.
But yeah, because it makes sense with Conny.de, doesn't it? It makes sense to do it in the first month because they take the back pay. So I think if you did that through Conny.de, that 22,264 euros would actually go to Conny. And you only get a marginal amount of that.
Well, this is different. In this situation, because this is
Someone who's gone
suit.
illegally.
But it's just a nice way to greet people.
Yeah, that's great. That's a lovely thing to do. Do you knock on their door? How do you do?
I walk right up to them.
Okay.
And they're so scared of me that they
Yeah.
then they will
Do whatever
download
you
the
say.
app, and I got a nice bottle of Glühwein from the folks across the hall.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I don't generally talk to my neighbours ever. Kai Wegner went to Africa for the first time in his life last week when he visited Namibia as part of a Berlin delegation of business people and political representatives to the capital city of Windhoek. The mayor was struck by levels of poverty and the 50% unemployment rate. The Berlin Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the IHK, tagged along too with concrete suggestions for building a training centre for young people in Namibia to gain qualifications for working in hotels as electricians and other highly skilled jobs. Part of the scheme is designed to bring trainees to Berlin to work, a programme that Kai called a win-win. Surely his boss Merz, Friedrich Merz, the Chancellor, would be horrified by the further pollution of the Stadtbild. Topical.
Yeah. We'll come to that later. But
I think just if case we should probably just, there's a context for what Conrad just said there. He's not a hateful racist. He was referencing the hateful racism of Merz.
which we
Yeah,
will
that's a
reference
tweezer.
a little bit later on in
It's
the
foreshadowing.
in
Have
the
you
pod-
read Donna Tartt, The Secret History?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. That's another
I'm not
classic.
asking you, Izzy.
Everyone's read
Okay,
that
no,
as
I had
well.
a point about this. Okay, so this was the first time in...
Sally Rooney's written a lot of books.
Yeah, she has. Moving on. So this was the first time I actually found a use or found something that the AHK does in the world. So the AHK used to send me bills once a year for like 135 euros. And I never knew what I was paying for. I was just, I got told as a tour guide, you pay to the IHK. And I never knew what it did. And people would say, they like kind of take care of this and that. And I wouldn't know. But apparently they go on trips with Kai Wegner to Namibia and set up training schools where people get trained in working in hotels, electricians and highly skilled jobs so that they can come and live in Germany and do those jobs. I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Well, there you go.
It's interesting what things happen.
Maybe it's a different IHK.
People do.
Yeah. But the Berlin delegation in Namibia did not get away with also having to talk about... they didn't get away without having to talk about the genocide. As with many places in the world, the Germans committed horrific acts of genocide and crimes against humanity in Namibia between 1905 and 1908, during which tens of thousands of Herero and Nama people were murdered after rising up against ethnic cleansing from their lands, systemic slaughter of their cattle and livelihoods, and the destruction of their villages. A delegation of Herero and Nama people presented to the delegation a list of demands that would progress a largely symbolic acceptance of the genocide by the German state to actually accepting, for instance, a place of a memorial in Berlin to the genocide, and deliver also concrete restitution to the affected population. Their parting words for the delegation was, listen to the Herero and the Nama people. A memorial in Berlin would have to be approved by the federal government, according to the Senator for Culture, who was also on the trip, Sarah Wedel-Wilson, and is currently not a priority from the current federal cultural minister, Weimar, who is not interested in commemorating colonial crimes at all, really, at the moment.
And last but not least, some Brandenburg news. The state went to the polls on the 12th of October and then had some runoff elections for mayors the weekend after. I know you are all bracing for a 5-minute rundown of us horrified about how much the AFD managed to win by, but actually, the results did not hand the AFDs the victories they had been craving. Independent candidates gained significant ground, with voters increasingly favouring non-party figures like Nusha Aubel and Axel Strasser, reflecting growing disillusionment with traditional party politics. The SPD, particularly in Potsdam, is in crisis, having failed to present a strong local candidate and losing its leadership position due to internal missteps and lack of engagement. Meanwhile, the AFD's anticipated surge failed to materialise as urban voters largely rejected its hardline rhetoric, often voting strategically to block its candidates. The CDU also struggled to present itself as a viable alternative, with some candidates distancing themselves from the party and others barely securing wins. Despite these challenges, voter turnout remained high, showing that Brandenburgers remain actively engaged in shaping their local political landscape.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting also that a week later, there was a vote in Oranienburg, which is famously the host of Sachsenhausen concentration camp and now memorial. And there was a high likelihood, or there was a sense that it was going to go to an AfD mayor, so essentially an AfD or neo-Nazi ruling over the town, where you had an ex-concentration camp that now hosts hundreds of thousands of people a year coming to visit it. So that was just a horrifying prospect. But instead, the SPD candidate won with 56.9% of the vote, or something quite high. So that was like a resounding success for the SPD in an otherwise rather disappointing election campaign. And that happened also with another town in Brandenburg as well, where there was an expected AfD win for mayor, but they didn't manage to materialize. So this is kind of, I think it was like an interesting, or sort of maybe good news that we can revel in a little bit. The AfD is looking for more and more institutions and political arenas that it can start really taking over, and political institutions that it can start to really, take over with their politics and start to move into more centralized areas of power. And they weren't able to in Brandenburg in the way that they wanted. So I think that's
that is good.
Yeah.
I heard that a lot of mayors and mayoral candidates that used to belong to the CDU and SPD go independent as well, because they don't want to be associated with the federal government. So that might also help, because they want to have to they want the vote to be just about local politics and what's happening in the local town. So It
reminds me of when the SPD in history books, when the SPD was banned for like a period of, I think it was like 10 years in the 1880s or something. They used to run candidates. And they would run as independents. They wouldn't run as the SPD. And then on election day, when they had won the vote, they would reveal themselves as being an SPD candidate and be like, woohoo, I am actually SPD and I won the election. Okay, so last story in short news. Berlin's population is growing faster than anticipated, with projections now suggesting that the city could surpass 4 million residents by 2036. When Berlin has seen steady growth in recent decades, it has still not reached its historic peak of around 4.4 million people recorded just before World War II. Interestingly, the city has the lowest birth rate in Germany, Jesus, meaning this growth is driven almost entirely by immigration. By 2040, an estimated 109,000 new residents are expected to have arrived, reshaping the city's demographic landscape. Yeah.
Fans of demographics, check out Certain Futures, my spin-off side project that I've done in collaboration with the Future Res project. Yeah, that's right. Certain Futures, available in our other feed, the How to F Up an Airport feed, or at its own URL, certainfutures.
Yeah, I've listened to that. It's quite good.
Thanks. Yeah. Episode 3 coming soon. To have growth in Europe, population growth, especially amongst younger people. I mean, it is going to continue to rely on immigration. Immigration won't be enough to keep the population from becoming incredibly lopsided towards aging people. There's just I mean, maybe in one city, but overall, there's just immigration will never be enough. But I mean, there's a reason to encourage education and training and give support to countries in Africa, which is the only continent that's really seeing steady population growth right now. So whether or not this particular trip down there was efficacious or well-intentioned, it's hard to say.
I mean, we do need more electricians in Berlin.
We need more.
I don't know if you've tried to get an electrician recently.
I haven't.
It's a nightmare.
I try and do it myself personally.
But isn't it also a
times.
question of cost of living? It's not just about skills. Like, there's like certain wages that you just can't afford to live in Berlin right now. I mean, I remember talking to Munich people like 10 years ago who were saying if they want to get a plumber, like 4 or 5 different households have to come together and invite a plumber who usually comes from the Czech Republic or Czechia for the day. And they have to all kind of band together to pay for that plumber because there's no chance of plumbers living in Munich because it was just way too expensive. And now isn't that also starting to become the case in other cities like Berlin as well? Like blue-collar jobs.
I mean, there's a lot of imported labor and a lot of people who get where it's advantageous to make a travel to Berlin to do work, whether or not you're licensed or not. And there's a lot of people who get taken advantage of too, like brought in to do labor work here, but I would assume people won't fly from Africa for that. But I don't know if that's what you're suggesting. The plan is.
That's a long flight to do.
Seems like a long flight, but honestly,
to replace a lamp.
Again, as someone who doesn't read and maybe their geography isn't that good, it might be a short flight. Like I don't know. I mean, I also find it weird when...
I think it's shorter than some flights.
That's true. Some flights, I would say most flights are shorter. I'd say all flights except for one are shorter than others. But like, I also find it weird whenever someone travels north to south or south to north on an airplane. I have a lot of trouble. I've done so much traveling east to west. I just assume... I don't think people should be allowed to be in the air for like over 3 hours and not change time zones. I think that's weird.
Yeah. Well, I did that. I flew to northern Norway, and it's the same time zone, but it took like 5 hours to get there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you do that for?
Oh, I don't want to go into it.
For the film?
No, I'm writing a book about the film, so I had to re-research some stuff.
You had to re-research?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. They shouldn't make you do that.
No, I made myself do that.
Let me talk to your publisher.
No, I just realized I didn't have enough interviews to fill the book, and I just thought I have to...
Because books take more words than movies.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't just show pictures for a while.
Yeah, you
like
can't.
that part where you're like driving along, you see the car.
You can't pad stuff out in a book.
In the book, couldn't you just be like, then I drove along the road and drove some more, and the sun was setting. I mean, you could. I think there's something to be said there. Speaking of books, have you read Thomas Pynchon's Bleeding Edge?
I see. That's the only Pynchon one I haven't read. If you'd picked any of the other, well, no, I haven't read Against the Day either. But I read all the other Pynchons, but not Bleeding Edge. He's just got a new one out. I haven't read that either.
And you know what's weird? I have not read that one yet either.
Okay.
I recently purchased a book.
Which one?
Hole in the Sky by Daniel H. Wilson.
Okay.
And I highly recommend his entire oeuvre if you like speculative science fictional tales.
Okay. What's the difference between speculative science fiction and science fiction?
Well, I thought by adding an extra word, I would sound smarter.
Okay. Groovy.
But I have been outed as a stupid person.
So turn to Konrad.
Yeah.
Konrad Werner.
Okay. I'm in charge of the fun bit now.
Yeah.
We're
This
talking
is
about racism in German political climate.
Yeah. So I just wanted to turn to you a little bit, and obviously this is going to be a slightly lighter part of the podcast, our second segment, where we talk about the choice words of our Chancellor, who is the guy who leads us politically.
Let's just for new listeners, what is a chancellor?
He's
The head of government.
Yeah, president. He's like the American president.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because Germany also has a president.
Yeah, but that's different.
He's
the head of state.
He protects our constitution, and then the Chancellor is like the head of the executive.
And are they friends?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
I mean, they know each other.
Yeah.
They don't live. Do they live in the same house?
No. The president lives in the Bellevue Palace, and
he doesn't actually live there. That's just it's not
just sort of chills.
Yeah.
And then the Chancellor supposedly lives in the Chancellery, but Angela Merkel famously didn't live there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference. Chancellor is the head of the executive branch, and the president is the one who protects our constitution from violations.
Oh, that would be good, because I used to live in this country where the president was, and then he started we needed someone to protect the Constitution from the head of the executive branch. That's a really good job. We should add one of those in America. Mm-hmm. Germany's got such a good Constitution.
Yeah, I always think that too.
Yeah, so I would like you to tell us a little bit about what Friedrich Merz has said over the past week or so that's caused such an outrage. What is it exactly that he said, and why did it cause such outrage?
Right, okay. So he was visiting Potsdam, and he was giving a press conference, and he was talking about all the things that Germany has done to reduce immigration, and immigration has indeed fallen in the last few months, and in general over the last few years, immigration is falling. And he said, in an approving way, he was saying, like, there are now far fewer refugees coming to Germany, far fewer immigrants in general, and this in quotes now, but we still have this problem in the cityscape, and that is why the Interior Minister is working to carry out large-scale deportations, end quote. Now, what did he mean by the cityscape is like the big question. Mm-hmm. Was he saying, like, there are too many brown and black people in the cityscape?
No,
Yeah. Or is it like too much crime or whatever? What does he mean? Like,
you're equating those two things.
But so is he. And so this caused a bit of a furore. And a few days later, he was asked by a journalist in another press conference to clarify. He said, "What did you mean by this cityscape remark?" And he said, the journalist asked, "Would you like to take anything back?" And he said, "No, I don't want to take anything back." And then he said to the journalist, he said, "I don't know if you have children, but perhaps if you have daughters, you might want to ask your daughters, what I might have meant by that."
Wow.
So his little quote, the Stadtbild thing, has been what's been like. So much of the response has been around that first sentence, which is crazy because the second sentence about deportations is so much darker, and the follow-up is just even more nasty. And yet people have sort of stuck with this. What was the phrase in German? In
German, we translated it as a problem in the cityscape. Stadtbild is the image of the city.
And that's what I keep seeing over and over again when it's just sort of like, oh, guys, it's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a pretty racist way of putting things, and I guess what is sort of I don't know where you even start. I think the problem is, like, a lot of people think about Merz and the CDU trying to have some kind of relationship with the AfD, right? They want to know what is our strategy. The AfD is beating us in East Germany. How are we going to beat the AfD? So the idea is a little bit, we should try and like cover their talking points in some way. I guess their strategy is we will win back the voters that we're losing to the AfD. And next year, Sachsen-Anhalt is having an election, and in some opinion polls, the AfD is over 40% in Sachsen-Anhalt. It's huge. And so they think that we have to do something about it. And Merz is a bit of a, like, he likes to use very provocative language generally. It's like he sees it as one of his strengths. And he thinks that if he does this, fewer people will vote for the AfD. Perhaps. I mean, that seems to be the strategy. Mm-hmm. But
that hasn't been effective so far.
It's not been effective so far, and in fact, there is like mountains of academic evidence, scientific evidence, saying that actually it always backfires.
Yeah.
When centre right or centre left parties, because we had this. In fact, Olaf Scholz of the SPD also said last year, and it was the cover of the Spiegel. You know, it was like he did this thing, and he says we have to have large-scale deportations. Was the phrase? You know, we finally need to bring in large-scale deportations. So it's not like just the CDU does this. A lot of centrist parties do it, and we see it in Britain too, with Starmer doing the same thing. And yeah, I mean, but the way that Merz phrases it, and he does like to use these sort of racist terms. I mean, it's just there's no other way of describing like this thing about a problem in the cityscape, or
what's a dog
talk
whistle?
to your daughters. I mean, it's also sexist. I mean, it's not like it's just horrible. It's just a horrible way of putting it. But I think that I just think that some of it is not just strategy. I think some of it is just him. I think some of it's just his personality, and also like he thinks that's his strength, is talking in these what do you call it, unfiltered way.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I think also we see this reflected in policies as well. So not just adopted by the centre right, but the centre left as well. So there was a policy of putting border guards at the border that predates this current government and goes back to the Ampel coalition, and the police and the authorities and commentators and academics and think tanks and all of the kind of, you know, the feedback system in a democracy was saying these are useless. They don't actually prevent any illegal immigration from coming in. They just slow down a lot of traffic, and they also make relations with our neighbouring countries more difficult and encourage more sort of backlash against German immigration policies. But we still went ahead with doing it, and they're still in place today. And it kind of feels like one of these, you know, fig leaf policies that's saying to sort of trying to win back right-wing voters and say, look what we're doing, we have guards on the border. But in fact, they're not actually performing the task that essentially the far right would want them to do, which is to prevent any person who arguably, a black and brown person or someone from, I guess like different backgrounds from coming into Germany. So that's what the far right would want. But it kind of lays the groundwork for those things. And with the asylum policies as well. So with the migration, for instance, we had this big change in citizenship laws, right? Like a year and a half ago, they changed the citizenship laws so you could become a citizen after, I think it was like, 5 years?
Yeah,
rather
unless
than
you're
8.
a journalist who speaks incorrectly about Israel.
So
there's exceptions.
So then the Conservatives campaigned on the back of repealing that law, you know? So they were appealing to their far right, you know, appealing to their right wing and saying like, we're going to repeal that law because it's going to bring in all the riffraff, and people who want second passports are going to have to work hard for it, or they're not going to be able to get it at all. And the actual compromise that they ended up making with the SPD was, I think in the end, it was going to remove like 89 people a year from.
The compromise was just that they got rid of this fast track option, which hardly anyone used anyway. But it was basically that instead of if you were really well integrated and you learnt German really quickly, you could potentially get citizenship after 3 years rather than 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this was only in place for less than a year. This only happened last year. So that is the only bit of it that's been repealed. But the principle that you can have a second passport at all that has been kept, and that is new as well.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
new
So
thing.
it's again, it's like this fig leaf stuff. It's like we've repealed it, we've changed it, but actually, like nothing's really changed. And people aren't idiots; they know. So when you say like, you know, you're combating migration and you're combating these issues that you're declaiming or proclaiming as issues, then you're also laying the groundwork for much more harsh policies in the future from a far-right government if they come into power, because essentially the groundwork has already been laid.
I think the other danger, which Conrad alluded to earlier, is when the center tacks to the right, it validates what the right is saying, and so it moves the line of what you can or can't say. And while that's like disastrous in any democracy, I think it is extra troublesome in Germany, where protections are in place to keep a far-right fascist party from, or authoritarian or racist party from coming into power. Right? There are ways in which in the past, when we've seen parties like the AfD rise, that they were taken out, but you have to be able to demonstrate that they're outside of the norms. And as you push the norms towards them, I think it makes it harder to define what is far right for the purposes of excluding them from the democracy in this country.
Yeah. Basically, the logic that the CDU and the SPD are hoping is going to work, is going to win back their voters, is just completely false. And it's been exposed for years in many different studies, but there's just been a new one from the European Journal of Political Research. They did this text analysis of over 500,000 articles, and they were like showing that the mainstream parties are increasingly allowing the far right to set the agenda by repeating all their talking points, and it just. Yeah, I mean, voters aren't stupid. They know who to like.
Right. So why aren't you talking about the other disparities between East and West, or or the lack of wealth, the lack of youth, the lack of opportunities in Saxon-Anhalt instead of talking about immigration? Like, why choose that topic if you're never gonna win someone who's decided that the AfD is the answer to that? You're never gonna win them back with copying them. No. But there are the real issues in these states that could be the focus of your policy and of your rhetoric that might actually stand a chance. But
Radio Spät Kauf. Berlin News in English.
Yeah, I do have something to plug. So I would like to plug a tour that I am going to be doing for the Left Berlin on the 23rd of November. The tour starts at 2 p.m. and it is on colonial Berlin, or Berlin as a colonial city. And we will start in front of the palace. Is that where I start? Yeah, so in front of the Humboldt Forum.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, at 2 p.m.
With old-timey reenactments.
Okay. Yeah. Hard to reenact a genocide, but I'll try.
I've got my podcast to plug.
Very good.
The other one, Megan's Mega Can. You can get it where you get all your podcasts.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Ciao for now.
Bye.
Radio Spät Kauf. Berlin News in English.